What's going on? Peace to everyone out there, man.
Chilling.
Well, we're glad to have you on the show.
It's a privilege and an honor for me.
Definitely. We just in case you listeners out there, this is pre-recorded by the way, but just in case you listeners don't know who Trac 2 is, he is a legendary b-boy, second generation b-boy, right, Trac?
No, second generation rocker, Bronx rocker, first generation b-boy.
Oh,
Nice,
wow.
nice.
Wow. So that we definitely have some heat up in the show today. Some serious knowledge is about to be dropped on the show today. First question, and we've compiled questions that people have written to us, and a lot of it also is stuff that we want to know also, Trac. So we might be asking you stuff that, you've answered before, but, there are always new listeners out there and new generation b-boys that just don't know the history. So we kind of have to go over those questions once again, if you don't mind.
No. It's going to be, I'm just looking forward to it, man. I like to feed the hunger for those who really don't understand on what part of the culture they're really about and what it really is.
Okay.
So it'll be my pleasure.
Okay, nice. When did you first see b-boying, breaking, and when did you start?
All right, I seen the dance sporadically, but not in its full context and the way it's being done today. In early '74. In early '74 was my first experience in an outside park jam in a junior high school where my brother used to attend. In 1984, the DJ was DJ Whitehead, and he was playing in a schoolyard called Junior High School 82.
Okay.
And the first battle I've ever seen happened to be between Spanish hustling crew, a Latin hustling crew, a Puerto Rican crew called Salso.
Okay.
They had a phenomenal b-boy who was a fantastic rocker. And he went up against a couple of guys from Zulu.
Wow.
Zulu Kings was the first established b-boy crew.
Okay.
And they had a top b-boy named Beaver, who was the first ghetto celebrity when it came to this dance form.
Okay.
And in 1975, I used to go swimming in Cortona Park, Fulton swimming pool. And that's on 174th Street in the Bronx, right off of 3rd Avenue.
Oh, wow.
And I seen that battle happen. And it's ironic that a year later, when I began in 1976, I was brought to kind of audition right in front of this guy. Not knowing that the guy that was starting to mentor me were the second generation or the next shorties coming out of Stousto.
Oh, okay.
If you look at the evolution of the dance, Zulu Kings were the first b-boy crew established. Stouso became the first Puerto Rican crew.
Oh, okay.
And between Puerto Ricans and blacks is what created the dance form as we see it today.
I see.
Two different cultures living in the same environment, sharing this energy that allowed us to come together and create a dance form that's now is looked as an art form.
Ah. Now you said you were first generation b-boy.
Yes.
Now, but there were some guys that started before you. You just mentioned like the Zulu Kings. Now, I don't know how many years does that span though. Like when you consider first generation b-boy.
Well, first generation b-boy in its infant stage is mid to late 75, early 76.
Okay.
Because that's when the dance form actually became the art form in which you see today, with the top rocking and drops and transition into footwork.
Okay. Gotcha.
Now, in 76 is when everything else becomes added to it.
Gotcha.
Right. I was the first one to incorporate gymnastics, which allowed me to transition a lot of the passion that I had for gymnastics. When that started to happen, the creativity level became a little bit more with passion, a little bit more of meaning, a little bit more of, that battle mentality, to be creative, to stay on top of the game. So people have a misconception that, everything comes out of like 1973.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But really, in 1973 and earlier than that, you had two different cultures basically creating their own environment.
Gotcha.
You had Hurt and most of the blacks that were like into the house parties, and they had their certain style of music that they listened to.
Yeah.
And then you had the Puerto Ricans who listened to a lot of the rock music, a lot of that rumba turned salsa music, and we had our own little environment, and we would do like, social club dances. We would do hooky jams in abandoned buildings. So we created a whole different environment when the jams wasn't being done outside.
Word.
And in 1974, you're starting to see it happening on an outside basis because of what Bam really kept going when Hurt left the scene.
Word.
Got
Trac.
You understand? So more of the outside, more the outside jams really created an environment for us to come together. I hung out with a lot of my black friends in school. Then when school years were over, the school year was over, they would go their way, we would go our way, and we never really socialized.
Word.
But when these jams were happening more and more often, in park jams and, schoolyard jams, it allowed us to come together and extend what we had in school. So our ability to mix the culture and learn more about what they are and how they moved and what moved them, and and what we brought to the table and how it moved them and how it inspired them. It's just two cultures coming together to share, a certain entity that created a dance form out of nothing.
Word. Trac, when was the first time you saw rocking, like the Bronx rocking?
Oh, the Bronx rocking was an entity that was a part of my environment from the beginning.
Word.
Because there is two styles of what they call Bronx rocking, or what they call rocking in general in New York. The original name of rocking is called acid freestyle rocking, because it depicts that Vietnam era, and the drug of the choice during that hippie era was acid, which played along with the outlaws.
Yeah.
So you had that fighting, that whole fighting act, dance form, which expressed that aggressiveness and them being, outlaws.
Yeah.
But then we also had what we called our disco dandies. These are the guys that would get dressed up real nice, go into clubs, and have more of a Latin flavor to the dance.
Word.
So now there's, people have a misconception that rocking is outlaw, and that's what it was. But realistically, the style of rocking that my generation, really, gravitated to was more of that acid freestyle rocking.
Yeah.
Now in about 70 or 71, the name acid was eliminated because you didn't have to be tripping in order for you to have a good time.
Yeah.
And freestyling is really the essence of all dances, because it moves individually differently without a set like a set structure of a dance.
Nice.
Within your own community, that set structure will start to be developed.
Gotcha.
It's just like locking. You have Don Campbell who would do a different version of a funky chicken, and he would just stop and lock his body.
Yeah.
Even though he laid a foundation, more people who gravitated to that and became influenced in that dance form. Now you have moves called a Skeeter Rabbit.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Now, Don didn't create the Skeeter Rabbit. It was somebody who was called Skeeter Rabbit who gravitated to that allowed his interpretation of how he felt to become, right now, a specific part of the dance form because now it's a little bit more structured. Now it's got vocabulary.
Yeah, word.
You understand what I'm saying? So in the earlier stage of rocking, there was no vocabulary. There was no real structure because each person interpreted differently.
Yeah.
And you talk about the influence of acid on rockers. What about the influence of drugs on b-boys at that time? I mean, some people say that, you know, drugs influenced a lot of the graffiti writers, the pieces that the writers were doing. It was that movement. Do you know if there were a lot of b-boys that were on drugs, and did it influence their dancing?
Not really.
Okay.
Not really. You got to remember when you look at the decade, say from 65 to 75.
Yeah.
You're looking at Vietnam, the heart and soul of what the Vietnam era brought to the table.
Yes.
You know, you would see the Spanish, the Latin movement starting to be creative.
Yeah.
You know, you have a lot of Europeans from like 1967 and 68 and 69 starting to incorporate a lot of Latin rhythm sections into their music.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? It's ironic that when you get something that becomes so depressive with political, you know, because everything is political, economical, and then it just kind of filters down to social.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of that is not really that inspirational. It's how we have to adapt to certain situations that we become a part of.
Gotcha.
You know, now for me as a kid, the only two things that I remember, you know, when it came to, you know, my generation was the older guys getting a cheap high. They would buy, you know, bicycle glues, and they would sniff it in a paper bag.
Yeah.
You know, and that's something that some b-boys did and some b-boys didn't. You know, our thing was maybe, you know, buying a 40.
Yeah.
You know, maybe smoking a loose joint for $1.
Yeah.
You know, but it really didn't affect us to make us creative.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because we did a lot of that stuff in our abandoned building clubhouses.
Gotcha.
You know? And then we would go party when the jams were being brought out into the schoolyards.
Cool.
You know, you got to remember, in my generation, you had different type of entities that was a part of our environment. You had your graffiti writers. I was a graffiti writer before I even became a dancer. You know, you had the outlaw scene, the gang scene. You know, and my brother was an original ghetto